Okay, if you'll all rise, we'll open the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So they can see the flag. All right, good morning. Good morning and welcome to the March meeting of the Clinton County Council. We're a week later than normal this week. I don't know about you, but it just felt like we had, well, you've been gone for so long. It just felt like it had been so long since we'd done anything. But okay, we will open our business here with the approval of the February 10th meeting minutes.
Alan, I would make a motion that we would pass the minutes. There wasn't any corrections or additions, so great job, Janet.
Thank you for reviewing those. I have that motion. Do I have a second? Mary with the second. I'll say all those in favor, raise your right hand. That motion carries 5-0. Our regular monthly reports, beginning with community corrections. Do we have anybody from community corrections here today? I don't think so. Matthew, we'll go ahead and go to you with probation. But if you would happen to know, can you give us a quick update on what the status of trying to appoint the new community corrections director
I think
is?
the guy who might have better say is sitting in the back as well.
I'm sorry, Judge.
But
I'm sorry, Judge.
My report is easy. It's $0. So back
We
to
like
back
it.
months.
Thank you. Good job. Do you want to speak to that real quick? Judge Moeller.
Yeah, Judge Hunter and Sandy Locke, who is our board chair, and myself have met a couple different times, and I've got the process going to get that position filled. We have posted that through the Clinton County so that position has gone out. That went out, I think, about a week and a half ago. I've got some other sites where that position will go out statewide through the state offices. We'll try to get those posted here within the next few days, and then we've got a committee together to start reviewing applications and move on our position. The staff has done a great job there as far as picking up different functions so that everything has been running very smoothly. They're working on our state grant proposal right now with the DOC, and that's due April 1, so they're on top of that. So everybody at the office has been really good at picking up extra jobs to keep things going, but we're definitely working to get that spot filled.
Okay.
Yep, so it has been posted through Clinton County, and we'll get some other statewide exposure so we can look at as many applications as we can.
Thank you. I appreciate that update. You were next on the list anyway, so
I'll
we'll
just
let you
stay.
stay right there. You wanted to speak about a part-time CASA position.
Yes. CASA is, for those that aren't aware, it's a program I have for our juvenile, what we call CHINs, or Child in Need of Services cases. So a CASA is a volunteer that is there to look out for the best interest of the child. We have a number of volunteers. Nancy Ward is my CASA director. I also, for certain cases, I use attorneys as guardians ad litem. So we have two different sources of advocation for the children. For a variety of reasons, we've just hit a spell where we've lost some of our CASA volunteers. Many of them had done it throughout the entire life of our program and just decided it was time to move on. We're in the process of trying to restock the shelves with volunteers, but our numbers are a little bit low right now for volunteers. So we do have one of our CASA volunteers that is willing to take on more cases. Typically, a volunteer has one case at a time. We have a volunteer who is willing to take on additional cases, but with that, I want to make it at least a part-time paid position. And we had done this once before. Probably 5 or 6 years ago, we had a part-time person working, taking multiple cases, but we haven't lately. So what I'm asking for is approval to have a part-time person. It's already a CASA that's been trained and is taking one case, but this would allow her to take additional cases. It won't take any additional funding through the budget. Our CASA budget comes partially from our grant from the state, and then I have to match that each year with money from our wraparound, which is already in the normal general budget for juvenile services. So we're not looking at any additional funding sources. It'll come from our existing money. We also have some surplus grant money that's just carrying over from year to year. If we would run out, we have additional sources. So it's not going to require any additional funding.
Okay, would we at some point need to do an appropriation of those carryover grant monies then?
Probably not until at the very end of the
End of the
year.
year? Okay.
Yeah, we should be good. We got, our grant money this year was a little more than normal, which means I have to match it. It's a full match, so I matched it with a little bit more out of our wraparound money. So I think we're in pretty good shape this year, but if it is, it would be at the end of the year.
If you would do us a favor, when you submit that appropriation, whenever that time comes,
Right.
kind of reference back to this discussion so that we can put
Sure.
those pieces back together, because a lot
Yep.
will have happened between now and then.
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
So we have that request, and the folks in the auditor's office wanted to make sure that this was presented to the council, and we had an official approval on the record, even though that Judge Mueller already has the money in the budget. So I would entertain a motion to approve the judge's request to create the part-time CASA position, if you all feel comfortable.
So moved.
Have a motion by Carol.
Second.
Second by Todd, that we approve that position. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. That motion carries 5-0.
Okay.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we, last month, had to postpone the review of the CF1, the annual tax abatement reporting for Chenoweth Real Estate Holdings and Phillips Saw and Tool. And so we're going to bring that back up this week. We didn't have enough to, with Jeff having to recuse himself from that, we didn't have 4 voting members present last month with our short staffing. So we'll bring that up. We have with us today Jordan Chenoweth here to, I think, say a few words and be available for any questions that the council may have. But you have that CF1 document in your packet. And I guess I'll just say that, just to review for those who may be watching online, the CF1 is the annual reporting for any entity that gets a tax abatement, where they review and certify to the county that they completed the items they said they would do at the time of their request for abatement at the initial term. So you have that CF1, and Jordan, I'll turn it over to you for any comments you'd like to make. I believe this is the last year, correct?
This is the
year
last
10,
year.
year 10 of a 10-year.
Can everyone hear me? I don't want to touch it if it's. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, thinking about the last 10 years and the commitment that the county has made just to Phillips Saw and Tool. And I'm really long-winded, so I've been practicing getting it shorter. For most people, they need to add time, I need to reduce. And for me, just in looking back and looking now, being majority ownership of my family's business and recognizing Phillips Saw and Tool has always been personal, it's very hard to just make it business. And looking at the commitment that the county has made to Phillips Saw and Tool during our expansion, during our investment, and just talk with my father and just with Alan as well, and looking back, and I think the thing that I'm probably most proud of is the opportunity for us to be self-sufficient, but also invest strategically, where now we are more responsible for our future. And looking back, we are now producing or importing 90% of everything we manufacture or service directly. And that was not possible, and that was not feasible 10 years ago. And I think probably something that really hit home was during COVID, and we got a letter as recognized as being essential from Homeland Security. Because of our manufacturing capabilities, we could service some customers that instead of producing were component parts for building equipment and airlines, they had to help with medical. And so when you look back on kind of how everything has leveled up, it's really interesting and neat of how we are set for the next 10 to 15 years just from the last 10. And just the investment with recognizing we've struggled like everyone else to try to maintain and just grow with people. And so in regards to equipment purchases and raises and bonuses, everything has been raised and we're always looking to grow. Just think the last 10 years we've had assistance now. We can just be strategic and feel really confident that the direction we are going has sure footing for here, but definitely for the future. So if there's anything I can specifically answer or maybe expound upon, just let me know, please.
You're an international business now, right? You sell
Yes.
products around the world. Can you maybe just touch on that real quick?
Sure. So the interesting thing is Phillips Saw and Tool is international. And the neat thing is I'm also president of the International Saw and Knife Association. And my father got involved in the association in the late 80s. And so it's neat to see how our businesses has grown. It's neat to see how things have come closer. You learn a lot of things when you go international. You learn that there's good to have representation. There's good to have friendly ally competitors. And so for us, the exciting thing, Alan, is for sure the last 2 years, we've been approached by really good partners for distribution to look at how can we get the Phillips product even potentially branded differently, but in different industries, knowing it's still coming from Frankfort, Indiana.
Yeah, that's exciting.
It is exciting.
It's exciting to be able to say we have a world headquarters of an international business here. Looking at the numbers really quick, Jordan touched on it. Employees were as expected, as committed, and salaries actually came in significantly higher, as Jordan kind of referenced with bonuses and those kinds of things. So really good numbers, exactly the way the system is supposed to work. We've grown a local business and made it stronger than it was before. So anybody else have any questions for Jordan about, as we approve for the last time, the annual CF1, so I would entertain a motion. This is for, we've got two. The first one is for Phillips Saw and Tool.
I'll make that motion, Alan.
I have a motion by Todd to approve. Do I have a second? Second by Mary. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 4-0 with Jeff abstaining. And then we have the second for the real estate holdings, for the land, Chenoweth Real Estate Holdings LLC. Do I have a motion for that? Same numbers.
So moved.
I have a motion by Todd. Do I have a second? Second by Carol. All those in favor, raise your right hand. That motion also carries 4-0 with Jeff abstaining. Jordan, thank you for your time. Appreciate the update and
Thank you, everyone.
job well done.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Congratulations.
You want to say
Thank
something?
you. Yeah, I sure do. So when we came 13 years ago to talk about a tax abatement, because I just thought, I've been reading about all the industrial plants in Frankfurt and everywhere else getting the tax abatement. I thought, let's just get one for the little guy. And so we came here and we went through all the offices, and Dan's was the hardest one to get through. The drainage board was tough. But anyways, just the whole process got me interested in government.
Is that right?
I was not, my head was down working for all these years. And then Wanda Mitchell just kind of tapped me on the shoulder, and I said, yeah, because I enjoyed this whole process. I remember you and Clark Beard asking me really specific questions, and I just thought, yeah, I just respect everything that's going on here in the courthouse. I just was really impressed, and I have been for, my third term now.
Yeah,
So I
that's
just
a great
wanted
story.
to say that. Thanks, Jordan.
That's a great
Yeah.
story. Thank you for sharing.
And Jeff, I was on the city council at the time, and you called, and we had a conversation. I think we even went out to lunch about it.
Sure, that's right. Yeah, that's
So,
right,
yeah.
exactly.
Well, good memories, good time
Yeah.
to reflect.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on. We have Dan Sheets with us today to talk about a reconstruction, a payment that he would like to get the council's blessing on, a little bit of an accelerated schedule here. I'll let Dan explain.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, Dan.
We're in the process of reconstructing the Ithamer About drain. It's approximately 2 miles of 36 and 30-inch pipe. That project came in bids at around $280,000. And what we would like to do, we're still in the process of securing our lending for that. I do have a meeting this afternoon with Huntington Bank. I think they will ultimately be our lender. We have 2 other loans out right now in construction projects. Those are with the Encompass Credit Union. So this isn't anything new that we're doing, but what is new is I'm requesting to move $148,000 and change from the General Drain Improvement Fund to a line item where I can pay the materials on this job. The contractor has started due to the rare weather, kind of bad weather, but the drought in particular allowed them to get started early. And when you can install a drainage system into the ground that you don't have any groundwater to deal with, you get a much better product. And the reason I'm here is to ask for that accelerated payment. I'm hoping you could do a kind of a consensus vote to move forward with the payment to allow me to pay that invoice for the materials is what we'll be paying for. But that's why I'm here today, is to see if the council would agree to doing that.
So, and Dan and I spoke about this. We have done this as a council before when there's a situation like this and a department head comes to a public meeting in a public setting and the council votes on the record with recognized meeting minutes, we will allow the expenditure to be made and we will catch up with the advertised appropriation at the next meeting. And so in this situation, because we had this early window of opportunity that allowed for I guess, premium installation conditions, we kind of got started earlier than we outkicked the coverage, so to speak, in terms of we got started earlier than the bank financing got put in place. So we would essentially be trying to not make that that vendor that sold us the pipe suffer by having to wait that extra 30-some days while we wait to advertise and appropriate for next month. So you have the full report, you have the meeting minutes of the Drainage Board, you have a description of the project. I mean, the project has had multiple opportunities for the public to comment. It's been approved by the Drainage Board. The Drainage Board has received the surveyor's report. I mean, this has been as transparent and as out there as we could possibly get. We're just asking to make that payment this month rather than having to make that vendor wait the extra 30 days. So if you all are comfortable with that, I told Dan that I would bring this up for a consensus approval, and then we would finish the, I guess, the technical part of it, the advertisement and formal approval next month with our additional appropriations.
Yeah, right.
So-
I would approve that.
Okay, would you make that as a motion?
I would make-
That we would support this payment being made now?
Yes,
Yeah.
that would be my motion.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay, so I have that motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion, but I
Yes.
also want to say I really appreciate the report. It was so thorough and very, very, as transparent as you can possibly
right,
be. I felt like I was in the meeting. So thank you.
Yes.
So was that a second?
Second.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. So this was a big project. This is a little bit of an unusual ask, but it's a, I guess, a unique circumstance. Does anybody have any questions or need any additional explanation? You all feel comfortable with that? Okay. All those in favor, raise your right hand. That motion carries 5-0. You're good
Thank
to
you
go.
very
We'll
much.
catch up with that appropriation then next month.
All right,
Okay.
perfect. Thank you.
And Dan, I would request a meeting with you, just so we can hammer out the details.
That's perfect.
Okay?
And if you have any questions, please stop by my office.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dan. Central Dispatch, we have our annual report from Renee Crick, the director.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I hope you all had a chance to review the documents. And Carol, I'm sure you had plenty of catching up to do. Like, this was probably the
Thorough
bottom of
report,
the.
Thank you.
Well, it's always good just to give, a review of what we have done in the previous year in Central Dispatch. But in 2025, we dispatched a total of 37,630 calls, and that's calls for service, where we add a call in Spillman for police, fire, EMS. So that was our total number of call volume, which was a 9% increase compared to 2024. We also, for our total calls, the statewide 911 board funds the programming to track, to do reports for total number of telephone calls, whether it's administrative or 911. And so our 911 totals were 12,906. The admins were over 26,000. So we had a total calls between the two of 39,779, which was a 5% increase over 24. We continue to utilize texting. Of course, that is where people can text 911. Maybe it's not safe for them to make the voice call or the hearing impaired, so they can text. We also text 911 if we have 911 hang-up calls, or we get the butt dials for, like we get butt dials just like you do on your cell phone. We get those on 911. So a lot of times people won't answer the call, just like I don't answer if I don't know the number that it's coming from. So we have the capability of initiating a text from dispatch to that cell phone. We also still utilize Nixle, and we still encourage everybody to, with our mass notifications. A lot of people still, and it's continuing to be an education. Used to, people would get all of the texts from Nixle. Well, Nixle decided people get inundated with texts all the time. And so Nixle was purchased by Everbridge. So it's still the Nixle platform, but we encourage people to download the Everbridge app. And that will get all the notifications, because a lot of times the texts, they will only go out if it's a warning. So if we get a tornado warning, thunderstorm warning, they will get the text, but they may not get our routine road closures due to construction and things. So again, we encourage people to download the Everbridge app to receive all of those notifications. But next, the next paragraph, Alan, I'm sure you were, if you've had a chance to look at this, I'm sure you were ecstatic about our overtime. So
In your chart, I've got it circled and wrote excellent.
oh, yes, I knew, and it is like, so Chris went back and started tracking all of our total overtime since 2018. And I attached that document in our records, but it reflects a decrease in overtime hours by 72% from our highest year, which was in 2024. In 2025, we did not have to do an additional appropriation for the dispatch line item at all. We did for our supervisors, which is a separate line, but for the dispatch line item, and we have always had to do an additional since we began and opened in 2011. So that was huge. So, yeah, I knew you were, you would love that. So that's been a process, and then that goes into utilizing our new testing process for dispatchers. It assists us in selecting the most qualified candidates. Chris has worked really hard on improving the overall training program, utilizing our front line for our tracking of our training hours that we have to report to the state on, but it also, the frontline program that we utilize makes it so much easier with our trainers and our trainees. It's all online, so it cuts down all of our paperwork. I mean, the trainers have a DOR that they have to do on the trainee and evaluate every single day that they're in training. And by the way, our last hire completed her training over the weekend, so she's been released. So, it's a grueling process. It's months of training, but we feel like some of the things that we have in place has helped with our overtime and improved things, and it cuts down on employee burnout. I mean, yes, we do have some people that they like the overtime, but then you get to a point when it's nonstop and you're not having days off for 7-8 days, you're working in a row. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And it is a lot. So we feel like, some of those contributing things, that's helped us in reducing the overtime and maintaining our staff. So we're excited about that. We did host 2 training courses in partnership with the Denise Amber Lee Foundation. And we were able to send several of our employees to that because we hosted it locally. Last year, Chris also developed a PowerPoint presentation and visited all of our volunteer fire departments, Frankfort Fire, Clinton County EMS. It was mainly just continuing our relationship with our volunteers. We have a good relationship, but, quite honestly, I had not been out to them. Like, I talk to the chiefs all the time and attend the chiefs meetings, but having that one-on-one interaction. So Chris went out to each of their monthly meetings that they had. I joined with him, and he put on a presentation just giving them updates of why dispatch does some of the things we do, talk to them about things, and we addressed some concerns that, they had some questions, things that we didn't know, so we were able to change some things on our end, and it just keeps that line of communication open. So that was really a good opportunity last year for us. We also, last year, they had a firefighter 1 and 2 class, which takes place out at the EMA training complex. So we encourage, like, the fire departments, not only fire, but also law, but last year they had a firefighter 1 and 2 class. And we encourage them when they are out there, let's include dispatch in the training so we can do mock dispatches for these firefighters who are new, that don't have a lot of radio experience and things. So we are able, it helps dispatch too as well. And so that's a huge process for all the firefighters that are going through that class to get that experience, in a, mock training, so they have some of that radio experience before they start answering those calls. I think I probably had told you before, but a few months ago when we had to evacuate dispatch due to the gasoline spill, it really was a blessing in disguise. There were some things that we realized we need to put some different things in place when we make that transition from dispatch over to our backup center at Frankfort Police. So it really was, a blessing to be able to have those in a non-critical, it wasn't like we were in dire straits that had to leave, but we were able to just kind of reevaluate things and make a few minor adjustments, and so that helped as well.
Good.
I don't think I have really anything else unless you do. And
Well, I do want to ask one quick question. So
Yes.
you've got 6 months or so under your belt, maybe it's longer, time flies, as the new emergency operations director
Yes.
running 2 departments.
Yes.
How's that, from your view as the central dispatch director, how's that work?
It's gotten better, and I love it. I actually love it. And again, I think I told the commissioners, I would never have been able, and I would not have felt comfortable. Dispatch is my heart, will always be after 34 years, whatever. But I would not have been able, wouldn't have felt comfortable taking that on had we not had Chris as an assistant director. He is fantastic. leadership that he has is outstanding, and, he's doing things, and taking care of business there. I go between the two many days, like yesterday, I didn't make it out to EMA, but I was in contact with Terry. So there's some days where I split, some days I'm out there all the time, but I love it.
Okay, good.
I really do. I love it. Yes, I've been in public safety, but there are so many things on the EMA side of things that I've been learning. And it's really been a good thing. It's been a challenge, and I'm truly enjoying it and being active in that. And real quick, if I can just say, I know I had told you I was going to schedule a public assistance training, and that's been scheduled in April. I forgot my phone back there. Alan, I sent you and Carol
Yeah.
the email on that, and you're more than welcome to attend. Todd would have gotten it because of the utilities, but we have that, and again, it's preparation ahead of time. So I have invited city officials, county, the departments, Britt's office at the auditor's office, Carol Bartley with the clerk treasurer with the city, street department, all the utilities, our public safety, the public assistance training. It's going to be a one-day 8 to 4 in April at the police department, but I went to an EMA conference and did the 2-day training for the public assistance, and public assistance is all about all of us being able, if we declare a disaster, if we have a tornado come through, and Todd's been through this with the utility side when we had the Colfax tornado. As the council, we need to recoup all of those funds that we can,
Right.
That's allowed by FEMA if we declare a disaster. And so this training, the public assistance training, is to let us get prepared ahead of time for things such as, I'll use dispatch as an example. I will need to get with the auditor's office because I can't track our regular hours, but I can track our overtime hours in a disaster. But also including with that, I need to have the fringe benefits. For the utilities, as an example, they can claim poles, overtime, vehicles. FEMA says like.
Chainsaws,
Yes,
everything.
chainsaws, anything, if we have barricades that the county highway or street department, like they've been destroyed during the storm, they can get those replaced. So if we have some of these things, like you input a vehicle, we all have spreadsheets basically, and keep track of all of this and have it done ahead of time. Because we're gonna be on a time crunch. If we have a disaster, we're all gonna be stressed out.
Yeah.
And everybody's working, and then we've gotta come up with all of this information that has to be submitted by a certain deadline. Well, if we have some of those things in place, if we have what FEMA's gonna pay the county highway on I'm just gonna say a 2018 Ford dump truck or something like that. If they have that set up at the county highway and they know that was used for so many hours and this is the amount FEMA will reimburse them for, then we submit all of that. So it's about making sure we can all recoup those things from FEMA if we do have that disaster declaration.
Okay.
And I'm excited that the utilities, Phil Farrell from the light plant, he and I have emailed back and forth about this. And I also think because the utilities have been through that and they participated the last time, I think they're gonna be able to share with us some of the things that they learned during that process as well.
It was an interesting process. I'm gonna put the other hat on for a little bit here. But the people that we worked with from FEMA were tremendous. They walked us through it, but I was the one that was actually pushing to get in to figure out if we was eligible, and lo and behold, we were. But once the paperwork was done, I think we were reimbursed, it's either 75 or 90%.
Okay.
On that, and it came pretty quick, and we got it back in there, but there's a lot of work. But we are set up on our end because during a car accident, if somebody hits a pole, things like that, we can charge the FEMA rate for those trucks. So the process for us was a little simpler, but it's still a lot of work. And I think I'm gonna have 3 people, maybe even 4
Yes,
out there
yes.
on that day,
Yeah.
so. Yeah, it's a
Well,
great
lean on-
idea.
We'll lean on
Yes.
your
It really is.
expertise, or your experience, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, they'll be able to
April,
share a
what-
lot
when
with
is
us. I can't remember, is it April 24th?
I don't remember the date.
I don't remember, but I'll make sure to send it out again. But, I think if again, it's all about preparation ahead of time. And I think if we learn, those things and then each department can put those things in place to make their lives a little bit easier. Because again, like I said, in a disaster, everybody's gonna be stressed. And that's gonna be the last thing you're gonna wanna do is sit and try and figure out.
Figure out a spreadsheet, yeah.
Yes, so.
April 22nd.
April 22nd, okay. Yeah, it's 8 to 4, and it's going to be at the Frankfort Police Department. So they've reduced it down to a one-day, and, but I've invited the towns. I've had tremendous already feedback of those that are coming. But yeah, public safety, I've invited all of the towns, the city, the county, different departments like the street department, county highway,
Yeah,
so.
the street department was involved that night too.
Yes, yes, and I invited the Parks Department as well, because the parks, when they have certain things, there are things that they can claim as well, so,
Okay, very
Okay,
good.
all right.
Try to be there.
yes, all right.
Okay, thank you,
Anything else
Renee.
for me?
Any other questions? All right, thank you for
Okay,
the report.
thanks.
Okay. Cecily's here. I'll have Cecily come up with HR to talk about the revision of the records clerk work schedule and position description, job description.
Good morning. Good morning. The only change is we're just changing the hours. Before, the previous job description said 7 to 3. We are changing it to just say 40 hours as scheduled so that it accounts for their lunch break. The personnel policy and the salary ordinance, that position works 40 hours. So that's the only change.
Okay. But our new job description, our job classification system requires that change to be approved by the council, so that's, she's following the
Yep.
procedure.
It
and-
went through
and
the
submitting.
committee.
Yeah, yeah,
and the
committee
commissioners.
is reviewed it, correct? Yeah. And it is forwarding on here to the council. So with that being the only change, I doubt there's any questions.
Yeah, none of the duties or responsibilities were changed.
So we just really need her here are checking a box. So I would entertain a motion to approve that job description modification, if you all feel comfortable.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, I've got Jeff with the motion, and then Mary with the second, that we change that and include the specific delineated 40 hours per week on that job description. All those in favor, raise your right hand. That motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Cecily.
Thank you.
All right, I've got one additional item. Yesterday, I don't know, I saw it about 4:30 in the afternoon. It may have come in a little quicker than that, but we got our annual TIF report, Tax Increment Finance District Report for the Clinton County RDC, that has to be presented to both the council and commissioners, and I've got it up on the screens, and for those of you that are watching online, we're attempting to figure out how to put it at the bottom of the page as a potential, like, show note or anything, but in the event that that doesn't work, you can always call in and have a copy sent to you from the auditor's office. But, so up on the screen, you'll see, this is a very quick summary from the Redevelopment Commission. We have 2 TIF districts in Clinton County for the county, both of them associated with, and I'm sorry, the writing on this is a little small, but it essentially is just going through some of the reporting requirements the RDC has with both reporting to the council and the commissioners, but primarily to the state. This is one we have due here by April 15th, and then we have an annual report or an annual meeting that we have to hold by June, where we invite all of the overlapping taxing districts to come join us, and we can talk about, because our RDC does impact all of those overlapping taxing districts, we can entertain questions, report back to them, have a dialogue. So that's just a little bit, a very, very basic review of what our operating calendar is. This is a diagram that shows how a tax increment financing district works. So that gray long rectangle across the bottom, that represents the tax base as it existed prior to the implementation of a TIF district. That teal colored triangle represents that over the 25-year statutory life of a TIF district, any new assessed value that develops in that area is kept separate. It goes into essentially a separate assessed value pot. That's why it's the incremental growth. It's called increment. So that gray area stays in the regular tax base. Nothing changes on any of that, I guess we'll call it grandfathered in property. The teal property, anything that's new gets separated off. And what happens there is that the tax revenues from that incremental growth accrues to the benefit of the Redevelopment Commission. It does not come to the council as part of the regular general property tax fund. And the idea there is that you're doing this in an area where you're going to incur costs to open development. And our TIF district is a perfect example. We're using it exactly as it's supposed to be used. We invested money in sewer and water pipes to open a new area for development. the development that occurs in that area, the tax increment and the tax revenue for that goes to a separate pot administered by the redevelopment commission. And the regular tax base that was there pre-existing is still is a part of the regular tax base that the council has control over. Then, at the end of 25 years, all of that incremental tax base that has been in this pot off to the side rolls back into the general tax base at the end of 25 years. So that's why you see the red is the combination of the former gray and the former teal there. This is your redevelopment commission members for 2025. I'm serving as president, Commissioner Brewer serving as vice president, along with citizen members Jay Hawley, Jim Need, and Mark Hodges. So with this references, again, we have two TIF areas, and one is actually a carve-out of the other. So the primary TIF area is what we call the I-65 TIF area. That is the one we put in place back in 2014. And then here in 2023, we did, I guess you would call it a carve-out of the State Road 28 corridor TIF district. And so that would be the area going along the actual highway out to the interchange of State Road 28 and I-65. And here's where we start to look at what the numbers look like. Here's the budget, both in terms of, this is the expenditure side, I guess we'll start with. We spent, revenues and expenditures for 2025. You can see we spent more than we took in, and that's a good thing this year, because for the first time in 2025, we were able to start contributing towards, and I think it's on the next page. Let me look here. Yeah. We were able to start contributing towards the bond debt service payment for the sewer and water. I mean, we contributed $250,000 towards those bond service payments now that we've started to accumulate those tax revenues. You can see that our balance, even after that payment of $250,000, we still have a balance of $1,073,000 in the large TIF fund. Because of the way that taxes are administered a year in arrears, it will be 2026 that we really start to get some revenue into that second one. So that's why it only shows $272, but that'll start accumulating here beginning in 2026. And so we have to walk a fine line as an RDC, because that sounds like we've got a lot of money, but that money is also there for the event that if a new development needs some sort of a spur, from a water line, or it needs a small road improvement or anything like that, we have money on hand and wouldn't have to go borrow additional funds. We could utilize those funds on hand. But we get to a point where we feel like we've got enough of a cash balance that we have some free money, and that's what the commission voted on last year, that our balance was strong enough that we could appropriate some of that money for debt service. And our intention is to do that again in 2026. And so that's the basic report, and I know there's a lot there, but I would be happy to entertain any questions about anything you've just seen, or how a TIF district operates, or how we view the future, or anything like that. You obviously are all welcome to come to our annual meeting that we would have in June. It's open to all the taxing districts that overlap, which includes the county. So any questions that I could answer?
Is it possible to get that report
Yes.
sent to us?
Yep, absolutely. If I could trouble
Sure.
you to send that on out, yeah.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, that would be good. I would have you put that in your file. Those are good numbers to know.
Yes.
Those are good numbers to know. Okay, so that was that, and I apologize for putting that on the agenda at the last minute, but it was such a good opportunity to get that presented that I decided to take it. Okay, that moves us on to additional appropriations for this month. Bear with me here as I get organized. We don't have Liz with us today. I was going to ask her to speak to this, but I can handle this. She just walked in. Hey, good timing. Liz, come on up. The first two items are $5,000 each from the surveyor's office, and then also from area plan, and those are overlapping with the fact that Liz and Zach Light in the surveyor's office serve as our co-GIS administrators. Is that the right title?
That's probably
As
as
good
clear
as
as anything.
Good as anything. And so they've got I guess, a challenge coming up that we're going to need to put a few resources to, and I want you, Liz has explained this to me in a lot of detail. We don't have as much time to go through that you and I went into, but if you could give that maybe high-level overview of the situation we're facing for the rest of the council, that'll explain these first two requests.
Yeah, so like Alan said, this is probably going to be the first of several things we'll end up coming to discuss with council as we're working on the challenges that we've highlighted here recently. But what's driving this, I don't know how many of you are familiar, I know a lot of people use Beacon, but GIS is used throughout the county by pretty much all of our governmental offices for all of our varying jurisdictions, as well as by much of the public for all kinds of different things involving land and community. One of the most critical uses of GIS in our community is for emergency response. So everything, I don't say everything, but the key layers that we maintain for me are our addresses and our roads, and for Zach within Parcel Fabric are integrated in through central dispatch and how they route things like fire territories, those kinds of things, knowing who to send where, that's all based out of our GIS as well. So moving forward to what's happening federally, I don't know if any of you have ever tried to make a phone call in an unfortunate situation where you need an ambulance to go somewhere that you are not standing physically in the same jurisdiction as on a cell phone. To give you an example, I have a friend who's a pilot. A few years ago, his wife had a situation at her house in Thorntown where their infant child was choking. And she panicked and she kept calling him, but he couldn't get her to call 911. He called 911. He was in Florida between flights. He could not get an ambulance here. So he ultimately called me in a panic because I'm in Colfax. I was like, can you please? So we were able to get an ambulance headed that way, and of course we drove that way too. But it worked out. It had a happy ending in that case, but it might not have. So the federal government is now mandating that everybody move to a common format for the data. And where they're headed is, the goal would be that on the entire continent, Mexico, Canada, and the US, any 911 call made could be routed by any operator anywhere on the continent to get an ambulance successfully to a site anywhere else on the continent. And to do that, we can't have our data in 400 different formats. So the state of Indiana, which is actually a cool thing about Indiana, we're considered one of the forerunners in terms of our GIS qualifications and support as a state. The state has a lot of support for those things. They set aside some grant money, which we were awarded in order to work on this conversion. As we head into this conversion, we've realized a streamline of things that Zach and I both came to the county around the time that GIS was being implemented. We had some initial training, and then we've learned how to do the things we need to do for our ever-growing dependence on the data that two of us are creating. But we've realized we also have some liabilities, and technology has changed. And a lot of the stuff our county is using is like 1998 technology, but to move to where we need to go, we've got to have new things. So there's going to be some other conversations that I don't want to take an hour to talk about that will be coming, but the most immediate thing that we have a need for is we've got to upgrade the programs that we use to create this data to a modern format, and neither Zach nor I have any familiarity with the new program. We've known it was out there for a few years, but it's easier to do things the way you've done them. Now we've got to make that switch, and we can't shut down everybody in county government that needs to use the data. We try to figure it out by trial and error like we did way back in like 07. So we need some training to help us move to knowing where all our tools are and all the things that we need are in the new format much more quickly. And then related to being able to have real-time connectivity, ultimately with other jurisdictions for 911, but also internally for all the different entities that use our data. There's also going to be some things that involve servers and cooperative technology that allows us to share information with each other internally and ultimately in ways that we select externally. And we need to start on some initial training on understanding enough about those systems to be able to give good advice to our decision makers about what the best, most cost-effective paths are going to be to get to a point of compliance and a point of stability that lays a groundwork for our next 50 years. I don't think digital data is going to go away, so I think if anything, we're going to see increasing dependence on it. So these requests are to allow us to do some initial training this year for Zach and I, and we're going to cross-train as much as we can in terms of using that money judiciously, but it wasn't in either budget because we didn't foresee realizing that what we thought was a small problem turned out to be a much larger iceberg that we need to address.
So in summary, we've got to do some upgrades to our GIS system as a result of some federal mandates. The state of Indiana is helping greatly with their grant monies that they're giving to counties. They're also providing, at state expense, access to consultants that Liz and Zach are working with, and those consultants have laid out a syllabus of coursework for you on what you need to take as terms of training to get familiar and up to speed on this new, more modern system. And it's that coursework that they're requesting this money for, $10,000 in total, $5,000 from each budget, to take those classes to get up to speed.
Just to give you an idea, because the way that costs work is a little different in GIS than what it is and maybe what I see in planning and training for building inspectors, I apologize. But for Esri, which is the company that we use the software for all of our GIS, $1,000 is a day of training. So just to give you an idea for reference, we're basically asking for 10 days of training through the next year, and that's being divided up into a grouping of 2 to 3 day sets on different aspects of what we need to understand more about in order to put together cohesive plans that we feel like we can stand behind in terms of what needs to happen to standardize our data and the way in which we handle it going forward.
And to be clear, to reiterate what Liz said, after they've gone through the training, there'll be a little bit clearer picture of what we'll need next. We're not 100% sure what that's going to look like, so we hesitate to throw anything out, but there will be more requests coming, and that'll give us time to hopefully put together a plan for how we would tackle that. So, I mean, it's a worthy goal to get this improved level of performance, but it would have been nice to have had a little bit more lead time to adjust for it budget-wise, but we'll make it work. So that's what these first two are. And Liz, thank you. Unless anybody else has any questions, we'll move on. We'll approve these as part of the overall appropriation slate. Any questions before I dismiss Liz there? Okay, thank you. Okay, commissioners have a request for $64,000. This is to repay, last year we talked about, this is actually carrying forward some money we appropriated last year that didn't get all spent. We appropriated money to repair the elevator in the courthouse. You'll recall that an issue came up and we decided that, heck, we were gonna have the courthouse closed, let's just renovate the elevator while we were there and had contractors on site. We'd appropriated $103,000. We didn't get moved out till very late in the year over there, so that work did get started but not completed. So we need to reappropriate for spending in 2026, $64,000 of that $103,000 we appropriated last year, so that they can finish that portion of the project. And then also from the commissioners, this one's in cum cap, is $50,000 for annex security. And so, I think it's fair to say, you'd all agree, the world's a crazy place right now. And so we have made the decision to sort of upgrade our annex security above and beyond what the original plan was. And so that, because it was not envisioned in the original budget, is going to require an extra $50,000 that would come from the Cumulative Capital Development Fund. That's going to be for increased number and quality of cameras. So that's through the Cottage Watchman, our security vendor. Yes?
I have a question about the one before.
Sure.
The 64.
Sure.
So the quoted price was $103,850, and was the total cost that?
Correct.
Okay,
And so this is,
we're
it
just-
says, is the remaining balance. So
remaining
they
balance,
had started the work, they billed for part of the
Okay.
work, but
I just want to make sure it hadn't gone over
Yeah.
by 64.
No, this is out of that original amount.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
good clarification. Okay, Health Department, $2,649.55. These are, we got some additional funding from Health First Indiana, and so we're appropriating that for use to the Health Department. Community Correction, $700 from the Misdemeanor Fund for a mini police academy for kids over the summer, sort of a summer camp introducing young people to criminal justice.
And that's part of the Learning Network.
Yeah, part of the Learning
Summer
Network Summer
program,
Series,
okay.
yeah. Also from Community Corrections, $500 to sponsor an event with the We Care Women's Recovery Group. Clinton County Highway Department, we got a refund of $3,203.74 where we overpaid on an item, and so we're gonna put that back into the garage supplies line item for use. Sheriff's Office, $43. We scrapped some old equipment, and Winsky's paid us a whopping $43. We'll put that in the repairs and maintenance line item.
It's gonna make the difference.
Could make the difference. Community Corrections from the opioid unrestricted fund, $200, and this is a housing deposit for a client that we're placing in a new second chance opportunity housing situation. Probation, $4,618. This is for some increased security improvements in the probation office. And I think, Matthew, did you talk about that last month? I believe you mentioned that last month. Okay, Surveyor's Office, yeah, we've talked about this periodically through the year. We have certain watershed drains that overlap into other counties, and as the primary geographic location of those drains, those counties submit to our surveyor the appropriate dollars for drain maintenance. $1,489.34 from Tipton County for the Leslie Johnson drain. $372 from Carroll County for the Jackson Lip drain. $336 from Carroll County for the J. Milner drain, and $60.75 from Tippecanoe County for the Arborist Young drain. Okay, Veterans, the Veterans Department, Joe is asking for an appropriation of $500 from his monument fund, and this is for some new paver bricks. We have some new people that have given money to have their own brick out there. Commissioners, this is from the landfill tipping fees, $21,685. You may recall that as part of the revised landfill tipping fee agreement that we had, that Republic agreed to create a $25,000 per year grant program or donation program that the entity receiving that could be chosen each year by the commissioners. And last year for 2025, they had chosen our brand-new cemetery committee that the commissioners created. And they did get started on their work, but they did not spend all of that money, and we're carrying over the remaining balance of last year's grant award. So of that $25,000, $21,685 is remaining, and we're putting that back in a line item that committee can access and use in 2026. The announcement for the 2026 award recipient is to be determined. We'll wait anxiously to see who the commissioners choose. Central Dispatch, $592.04. This is for supplies, and it's actually appropriating some donations that were received. And as you can see here on the request form, it's for plaques to honor years of service within the department. I think that's awesome. Those people deserve that recognition. And thank you to those that made those donations. Central Dispatch, $5,000 for the mental health EAP. That's Employee Assistance Plan, and that is a mental health. It's essentially, think of it as trauma care. If you're any type of public safety responder, you see some and hear some bad things at times, and we want to make sure we provide mental health assistance after that. This was just an item that got overlooked in the regular budget process, so we're putting, and we had it in there previously. This is putting it back in. Sheriff's Office from federal inmate, $10,000. This is for the out-of-county hold for the inmate that we moved out of Clinton County to another facility, the one involved in the officer shooting outside of Michigan Town in 2025. So we have to compensate that other facility that's holding them on Clinton County's behalf.
What period of time does this 10,000 cover?
That's a good question, Sheriff. Are we paying at the regular $40 a day or $45 a day? $37.50 a day.
Medical bills that are incurred in.
Yeah, you better come up. Good question, Mary.
The billing on that is, That is not the total. It'll be recurring until the process makes itself through court. So it's definitely one of those things where, medically and everything else, where we don't have a facility to hold and provide care for that person. Now, in the future, there may be an opportunity to bring him back here if, everything is if we feel safe enough to bring him back here, and that, and also sometimes the courts will request him not be held there just for the fact that there was quite a few people involved in that whole situation. And, this is something where we had, they might have been acting as a town marshal at that time, but they're still an employee at our sheriff's office as their primary course of job. And then we had, other officers that were involved as well, and even a corrections officer was involved in the situation. So that's pretty much, keeping the line, the safety for the person that's accused, and also for the people that are in there as well.
So Mary's question was, do you have an estimate for how long that 10,000 lasts? I think from what I hear you saying, it depends on the medical expenses.
That's right.
How far
That's
that
right.
goes. Yeah.
Medical and just the average daily hold on a person. And the thing about it is that it's pretty reasonable for the fact that, the DOC people that we have that come in and hold, it's $37.50 a day. Not a great, amount, but it does add up. But it is something that will be recurring, and hopefully, we'll get to court quick and get things taken care of and get into the Department of
Just
Corrections.
clarify, and I think I'm speaking accurately here, but that transfer was made at the request of the court, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is this the second amount of money that is this your second request for funds for this?
And I think it's the
this is the
first.
first.
This is the first.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the first.
Yeah.
All right, thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Sheriff.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Moving to the auditor's office, this is what will, I promise, be the last time we have to carry forward ARPA funds. The remaining $2,332,696.12 from the American Recovery Rescue Plan. I can't remember if it's recovery or rescue plan. These will be dedicated to the courthouse repairs, so we've been moving them forward as we kind of
they'll be
move.
spent this year.
And they're required to be spent by the federal law. They have to be spent by the end of 2026. So with the project, full bore now, those will get used up pretty quickly. But this puts them in place for Britt to write those checks. I believe that is it for the additional slate of additional appropriations. Does anyone have any questions on any of those? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve?
A motion by Jeff. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Carol. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries 5-0. I believe we had one extra added to our stack here last minute. We've got 4 transfers to approve. You'll see that I believe 3 of the 4 have to do with EMS, and they're all transfers from various positions to either part-time or overtime, which, is early in the year to be doing that. I did reach out to Stephen Decker to see if he could be here today to speak to that, and he is unfortunately unavailable today. But he did tell me that the department got hit by a rash of, he said they were down an entire shift for the flu for an extended period of time. He had one paramedic that joined the Army Reserve and went away to boot camp. And then there was like 2 other kind of unique one-off circumstances that hit at one time. And so the remaining healthy members of the department were pulling a tremendous amount of overtime to keep things going. And he said that's all passed, that they're at full staffing now. And so this was sort of an aberration and a blip. But to run through the numbers, let's see which account. This is from the 1151 fund, $5,161 from paramedics to part-time, $5,304 from paramedics to overtime. Also from 1151, $7,300 from paramedics to overtime. The first one I just read was the last, the one that got submitted right at the deadline there. Also from 1151, $5,000 from paramedics to overtime. And then in central dispatch, $2,000 from the Motorola ESO Solutions Motorola Fire line item. That's our lease line item, if I remember right, for the equipment.
No, that's the amount that we pay for the fire reporting.
Fire reporting, okay. The fire module, that's what that is, okay. $2,000 from that line item over to the Shelby Products to get 2 more chairs. And if there's one thing we let the central dispatch splurge on, it's those chairs that they sit in every day. That's really key for them, so that request is in there. So that we have 4 transfer requests there to approve. And we can get a little, we can ask Stephen next month if you want to dive into those a little more and have him, hear from him directly on the explanation, but that was what he had shared with me by phone right before the meeting.
I do have some questions. I'm just curious, then, does that deplete our funds for the rest of the year? So every time they have overtime, are they going to need to request an additional?
Well, I think what he's been trying to do is pull from the empty positions.
Okay,
We're going to switch to 1236 soon,
Okay,
okay.
because they come out of 2 funds.
yeah. I think we can make this all work. I think he's proactively managing this before it gets to a crisis position, and so, Mary, I think we'll be okay. I don't think at the end of the story here, we're talking about actually spending, we're moving money around
Sure.
versus having to have a need of adding more money, I think is what I'm trying to say. Okay. Does anyone have any other questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the 4
I'll
transfers.
make a motion to approve them.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the transfer slate. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Todd. All those in favor, raise your right hand. That motion carries 5-0. You have in your packet the monthly budget status report and financial report showing all of the various fund balances. We like to have a motion that we've received that from the auditor to show to the State Board of Accounts.
They've been received?
Okay, I have a motion by Jeff to put that in the minutes. Do I have a second?
Support that.
Mary with the second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. That motion carries. That moves us to council reports. Does anybody on the council have anything they need to update?
It's been quiet.
It has been quiet.
I would just like to formally acknowledge the receipt. and
Yes,
the
thank you.
For the Monon quarterly report.
For those maybe watching online, we quarterly get a report from the town of Kirkland about their continued efforts to improve the Monon Trail, which the county has helped them with as a grant match, provided some grant match funding, so they give us that update on a quarterly basis. We received the most recent report. Commissioner reports. I don't believe we have a commissioner with us today, so that'll make that one easy. Department heads. Do we have any department heads that have not already spoken to us that maybe need some time? Sheriff Kelly. I should have told you to just sit down up front here. I knew you'd probably come back up.
We are back to some general maintenance at the facility that are going to be some costs incurred. I think Chief Deputy Mayfield brought it to the commissioners. The elevator has quit working.
Really?
And it's obsolete. We talk about the building, and in the 1994, I think we opened that building up, and the elevator is done. So we are going to supply some quotes to the commissioners and also to you folks as well. And it's going to be, this is a rough, we were told about $92,000, so I'm going to guess between $90,000 and $95,000 is going to be the repair on it. It creates quite a difficulty at the sheriff's office because everything in the basement, from maintenance and everything else, they use that elevator to lift equipment, things like that, to bring up to the main floor of the sheriff's office. So now it's going to have to go outside, come back through and all the way around, and plus the ADA compliance of having an elevator to get to the public meeting room, which is in the basement. So something we can't avoid. We've got to do the repair. And, so it's one of those things where, we're back to, we're in a building that we are throwing a lot of money at. So with that, that's really all I have. All of the potential hires, the 3 merit deputies, today should be the last day. We got delayed on a hearing test of all things. We should have been able to hire them a couple weeks ago, but we're going to have to wait until probably the first week of April, but they had to take a hearing test for their physical assessment. So with that, hopefully, we've got them slotted for the academy in May, so it's looking really like we're going to get them in quickly and get them out.
Quick question on the repair. Do you anticipate having that those quotes to the commissioners, like, by their next meeting?
I
Like,
hope so. We should have them, probably, I would hope by the end of the week, this week. And-
Well, we have a healthy cash balance in the jail lit fund that we could cover that. And I guess where I'm going with that is if you feel like there's an urgency to getting those repairs underway, and the commissioners may be in a position to accept a bid at their next meeting, I would ask that this council go ahead and give that consensus approval to fund the repair, so that the commission, they need to have that to have their blessing to sign any contract. They have to know the council's willing to fund it. So I feel like we should be on the record as saying we'll support that repair so that the commissioners can take action.
Very good.
Yeah,
As
so hang
soon
on,
as we
hang on
get
just a
the,
second. Yeah, so
Yeah.
Jeff
I'll make
had a
that- I'll make
motion,
that
okay,
motion.
that we would support, let's say, a not to exceed, or up to 100,000?
Oh, okay.
Does that work for you? Is that, okay?
Not to exceed, okay.
And then Mary, were you going to second? Okay. Any other questions or concerns about doing that? I feel like that's the right thing to do to give the commissioners flexibility. Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. That motion carries 5-0. So we'll let the commissioners know we've taken that action, and that'll give you the ability to move as quickly as you need to move.
very good. And we'll get as soon as we get those, we will get them shot right to them.
Okay.
Last month, we approved a repair for the chillers. Is
Yes.
that, where are we at?
We're moving forward. We haven't received, the parts aren't in yet, but they did assure us that it was going to be a lot shorter than that 20-week window. So, which is fantastic. So we're looking at about probably another 4 weeks before we receive the parts, and they're able to come in and do the changeover.
And the amount that we approved was sufficient
Yes.
last month? Okay.
Yes. So repairs. So that $43 we received from Winski's,
Well, yeah.
it's going to make a dent, just like
Need a lot
Carol
more,
said.
though.
It's a start. All right, thank you. That's all I
Okay,
have.
okay. Thank you, Sheriff. Anybody else? I don't think we've got any, everybody else has already had their chance to speak. Anybody else have any business to come before the council? Always want to ask that. All right, seeing and hearing none, we'll